You all know as good as anyone else that no one would be happier than I if we got some Fire Emblem news this week. And with not one, but two Nintendo Directs knocking on our footsteps, it's time to talk Fire Emblem again. But before we do that, I know you guys might have missed it, I've been making some videos about Dark Deity 2, so if you get a chance, check them out. You might like what you see in it, worse you'll get to support my content a bit. And you can like and subscribe on this video too, that would help. So, like all Fire Emblem fans, the first thing that comes to mind is, will we see Fire Emblem in the Switch or Switch 2 Direct? I think there's a pretty big chance that we will. It's been 2 years since the last game came out, and we've had some pretty credible leakers talk about a few projects they had in the works a while back, but only one of those remains that we haven't seen yet, the Fire Emblem 4 Remake. The one thing I will preface is that I am praying that we don't see it in the regular Switch Direct this time. For once, I want a Direct with no FE content, and I genuinely hope we're not going to be the end-of-life content for the older console with the new one so close. I think the Switch 2 would be the best spot for it, and I'll tell you why. The first thing is, and I've brought this up before, but Fire Emblem almost never goes more than 3 years without releasing a game. Seriously, look at the release dates. They've been consistent for almost 35 years. I think with the Switch 2 coming around, Nintendo would be best served giving us as big of a release roster as they can really squeeze out all the sales for their brand new console. And Fire Emblem has quickly developed into one of their more consistent niche franchises that will always bring people back to play. I haven't seen an updated sales roster for Engage, but since mid-2023, it had sold 1.6 million copies, and I think it would not be too far-fetched to say it had likely hit the 2 million mark. Given that, it would be a pretty good idea for the series to return on a new console and really show us what it has to offer. Graphically, Fire Emblem has never been anything too crazy, but the quality of animations in Engage was definitely something to write home about, as well as the post-map exploration that is something they can absolutely expand on in allowing us to explore deeply detailed areas of the world. Three Houses touched on this a little bit with Garrick Mach. Engage expanded on it with the various areas post-battle, and when I discuss the FE4 Remake a little bit later, you'll see that it would be super advantageous given the scope of this remake. Now, this is where I pause to tell you guys that I was wrong. Because a while back, I put out a video slamming leakers and leaks in general for being far-fetched, and this one ended up being bang on with the Engage leaks and the images that were shown to us. I won't go through it in detail, but to say the least, they discussed that Engage was coming out and had been done for a while, but delayed due to global pandemic reasons. There was also a spin-off game that ended up being Three Hopes, and the FE4 Remake was the final of the 3 games that they mentioned that was in development. Given the fact that it has stayed in development for so long, there's probably a decent chance they're saving it for a shiny new system. Now, do we have any proof other than the leaks that FE4 is for sure the next FE game that is even coming out? No, we don't. For all we know, that could have been the plan, and then they decided to scrap the project for something else. But I'm here talking to you about this right now, and so why do I think it would be a fantastic and very strategic opportunity for them to do it? Well, first off, the Switch 2 will provide more power, with which to construct more detailed environments, animations, and cutscenes, which are all immensely important for the storytelling of Genealogy of the Holy War. The story is already incredibly dynamic and detailed with a lot of lore and multiple moving parts at the same time. There are a plethora of emotional scenes involved, which would be excellent with full voice acting, and I can definitely think of a few that would highly benefit from a proper cutscene. The other thing that FE4 can do would be to expand on the exploration component that Three Houses and Engage slightly touched on. With Three Houses, we constantly went back to Garrick Mach Monastery after every chapter to talk to our characters and carry out daily school activities. People liked that. It provided world building as well as some chill downtime to de-stress, customize your team, and see your characters in a different light. FE4 might not always have the opportunity to do that for reasons we'll discuss later, but at the start of every single chapter, your units all start out inside the castle, and it gives you an opportunity to do all of your pre-battle micromanagement. I gotta say, it was ahead of its time. I mean, hub worlds really became a thing in Fates, I think it was, and they've gone ever since, so, you know, Kaga saw it coming. This would be a real opportunity for Intelligent Systems to capitalize on this. The settings in FE4 are all unique, and fully designed castles in the format of Garrick Mach that differ based on where you are in the world would be magical, but also extremely nice in the grand scheme of the world of Yggdrasil. Imagine a castle deep in the lush forests of Verdane, on the plains of Augustria, or even the snowy mountains of Silesia. Each one could be different. The people populating it could all have differing views or opinions on the goings-on of the world, and it would also give us an opportunity for the game to expand even more on its lovable roster. We already know our main characters very well, and they get a lot of screen time and character development and genealogy, but I'd love to hear Arden's reaction to a death or plot twist, or Sylvia chasing down Lewin randomly in the castle market, or even Azel and Lex just being bros. A lot of these characters have rather deep backgrounds and emotions and a lot of involvement politically with many ties all around. Extra background content would be both great from a world and story building component, but also from a character perspective component. Another thing that could be revolutionized with FE4 is some extra content. Now, I know what you're thinking. The battles are already long enough, and the maps are huge, and you want to add more content? Well, yeah. Think about it this way. What if there was an Eldigan route, where you get to follow him for a chapter as he attempts to do things his way and resolve things through diplomacy when he has Sigurd for some extra time? The ending is going to be the same result no matter what, but you get to fill in that gap a little bit. What if we had an Arvis route where we get to see exactly what he's up to in between the two generations, or even during Generation 1 where he's kind of in and out of the story? It would certainly help clear up a lot of debate around certain specific aspects of the story that have been left vague, and probably for good reason, but it would be nice all the same. Heck, we could also have a Travant route, as a lot of what happens in Thracia and the way he deals with Altena and Arion is rather interesting. They might want to touch on that with FE5 instead, but it could be good to do here as well since it's in between generations. There is so much room to expand on with the world of FE4 that I can't think of a better place to put it on than the launch of their new shiny console. Now, it's not only the story, but it's also massive gameplay improvements that we would be able to see here. Those big maps we have, you can honestly break them down into smaller ones for the most part if you really wanted to, while still having the story-relevant scenes play in the background and have those enemies there but locked into position. I know people hate the large maps and the backtracking and use it as an example to hate on FE4 a lot, but the every turn save function really makes getting up and taking a break easy while also making sure that you don't have to repeat those massive turns. With the smaller maps though, we get to chunk it down, but also keep the larger vision because the console can accommodate the extra load. While we're at it, they could also look further into making the map design tighter and more engaging. I can also see them adding in support conversations just like they did in Shadows of Valentia, so that would be really nice too. FE4 already has a lot of talk conversations between the characters, so this feels like a natural expansion on that. The one thing I'm not sure about is how they handle the item and trade system. And this is something I'd love to hear your thoughts about in the comments. Most FEs let you trade freely between units, but one of the nice things about FE4 is the resource management aspect, which I'm personally a huge fan of. You can only sell things to a shop and buy them with another character if they have the gold to do so, which makes your items much more valuable and much more meaningful. You also sell them for half price and buy them at full price, meaning you'll lose money in the transaction, which makes you think twice with how you're going to acquire that item and who's going to acquire it, and then how you're going to use it and who's going to use it. In addition to that, each character has their own gold pouch, and only the thief and the character's lover can give gold to that other person. And that immediately gives all the gold that can be possibly given to the character, leaving the other one pretty much broke. Obviously with lovers it's no problem since you can go back and forth, but with the thief you'll be wanting to designate certain amounts. In a remake, I'd probably allow allocation of specific amounts of gold from the thief so they don't have to empty their pouch, and maybe give the thief a larger gold cap than 50k. And in regards to lovers, I'd even expand on that and maybe let them trade items freely. I'm hesitant to say screw it and give everyone free trade because it seems like an element of originality would be lost, and I'm kind of a sucker for preserving that, I will admit. Another thing that I think will work really well with the modernization of FE4 is actually the skill system. I think a few skills can definitely use some rebalancing, and even the addition of a few new ones might not be a terrible idea as long as the game, again, gets balanced around that. Between the skill rings we get and the ones that characters have naturally, as well as the inheritance system for the second generation, I think there's a lot to like about FE4's skill system. Sure, it's not as flexible as modern-day Fire Emblem, but you have to remember that this game is almost 30 years old. Older than most of you guys watching this video, and it had to walk so that modern FE could run. There's something about careful consideration of tactical choices that I like a lot, even though I have to admit that letting you create absolute monsters is also very fun. And of course, we can't forget the visual and musical upgrade that a remake would bring. Animations that are on the level of Engage would be fantastic. New artistic takes on all the characters and maps would be great too. And let's not forget the music remixes of an already legendary track that I have no doubt will sound fantastic. There's so much to love and look forward to with an FE4 remake that I could probably sit here and gush about it all day. My one hope, though, is that they don't ruin the serious and dark story that it brings, and that they don't try to change things. Enhancing it, sure, I'm all for that, but revisiting the narratives and rebuilding it would take away from the grandiosity and, honestly, the quality of the story. I have hope that since Three Houses was so successful and it was relatively dark, that we'll be able to see our beloved story as it is and on an even grander scale. Again, I could sit here and just talk about this all day, but I think that would be too much. But I figured I'd put this video out today since they announced the direct tomorrow, and on the off chance we get that unfortunate news that it's on the old Switch, at least I'll beat it to the punch. Having said that, I'm gonna keep uploading, and make sure you guys go and give my Dark Deity 2 videos a watch, and I'll see you all in the next video very soon. Peace.